Welcome back to the Eat, Drink, Explore radio network. Here now is your fabulous host, Mr. Randall White.
All right, well, good morning to you, everyone. We're always so glad you can join us here as we discuss all things food, beverages, travel, and tourism each week from 8 to 10 a.m. right here on this very station. This portion of Eat, Drink, Explore Radio's television. Well, I guess so. If you're watching online, we do have a video simulcast at eatdrinkexplore.com. But the Sunday Fun Day Hour brought to you by the Harvest Festival, original art and craft show that's in San Jose at the Convention Center, November 29th through December 1st. And just to let you know, that's Thanksgiving weekend, and that includes Black Friday. Now, you know, on this show, we always push you to buy local, and there's no better time to focus on that mantra than the kickoff of the holiday shopping season. Support your creative and artistic neighbors and find gifts that are truly unique and personal instead of a mass-produced, faceless throwaway item made overseas. Visit this year's Harvest Festival and come face-to-face with artisans responsible for making these unique handcrafted works of art. For more information, visit them online. It's harvestfestival.com. Pretty simple. I hope you'll go. Trans fats, as you know, have been in the news a lot over the past, well, really several years, but came into focus this past week or so after the FDA announced it is working to ban the artery-clogging food products sometime next year. Because there is so much talk about trans fats happening right now, I thought it might be a good idea for us all to better understand what they are. I mean, I took nutrition courses at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and at Santa Rosa Junior College in the mid to late 1980s. I know a lot of information has updated since then, so I could use a refresher course, that's for sure. But I thought it'd be better for us to understand what they are, which foods they're found in, and how they really affect our bodies, as well as some healthful alternatives to these fats. To help us do that, we welcome Jocelyn Dubin. She's a registered dietitian and nutritionist and co-owner of the wellness center Nourish in Santa Cruz. You can find them online at nourishsantacruz.com. And Jocelyn joins us right now on the Eat, Drink, Explore live line. Hey, Jocelyn.
Hi, how are you this morning?
I am fantastic, and I'm happy to have you here. We should let people know that Jocelyn, her Nourish place with the yoga and the dietitian service, nutritionist services, have won Best of Santa Cruz by the Santa Cruz Weekly year after year for just about every aspect of their business. So we really have someone that's not only very well educated on the topic, but who does a good job at getting that out to the public as well. So nice to have you with us, Jocelyn.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that.
So I imagine your clients are asking you now, what's the skinny, so to speak, on these trans fats?
That's correct. Many of my clients are really concerned about the trans fats in their foods and definitely are interested in this new FDA labeling requirement.
And the thing that I think is interesting is that a product could say 0 trans fats on it, but could still have up to a half gram.
That's correct. It is not a prerequisite that a product is 0 grams of trans fat. If it has less than half a gram of trans fats per serving, it can be called trans fat free or read 0 grams of trans fats on the label. But what most of us know is you open that bag of chips and barely anyone is having just one serving.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, even those of us with the best willpower
right.
cannot stay away from that. So let's get down to the basics to start off. What is a trans fat and how does it differ from a saturated fat or a polyunsaturated fat, all those sorts of things?
Right. So a trans fat is a fat that's been chemically altered. So it's an unsaturated fat, and we mostly think of unsaturated fats as the healthier type of alternative to saturated fats. But that's only when those unsaturated fats are left the way that they were found in nature. Mm-hmm. And what a trans fat does is it takes an unsaturated fat and it chemically alters it so that it is actually more damaging to the arteries, to the heart, to the blood vessels than the saturated fats are. So most of us think as long as we steer clear of those sat fats, we're fine, and we go for the unsaturated fats. But what we're not looking at is those trans fats, and it's really important to pay attention to the fact that those are more damaging than the saturated fats.
And now we're finding that some of the saturated fats aren't as bad for us as we thought. They might even be healthful.
That's correct. There are different types of saturated fats. We used to lump them all into one big category, and now we're starting to look at each of the individual ones, like coconut oil having lauric acid, which is a heart-healthier saturated fat.
So, Jocelyn, I guess a question that I have, and I'm sure others do, why do we even bother chemically altering them? Why don't we just use the fats the way that they're found in nature?
Well, Randall, one of the reasons that we don't use them the way they're found in nature is many manufacturers of food products want to have their products sit on a store shelf for longer and not spoil. And one of the ways that they can make sure that happens is you want those Twinkies that you bought in 2009 today, right? You can make sure that those fats are going to remain stable if you chemically alter them. So many companies are chemically altering a product just for longer shelf life.
So it's to keep it from getting that off flavor after several months, as it was designed by nature to break down, but we change them so that they won't.
That's right.
So you mentioned Twinkies. I have a graph here for people that are watching the online video simulcast put together by the U.S. government showing. It's a pie chart showing which foods most likely contain trans fats, and nearly half the pie, Jocelyn, shows cakes, cookies, crackers, pies, breads, and those sorts of products.
That's correct. Yeah, many of your products you find in the center of the grocery store, in those aisles that are room temperature stable products, those are often full of trans fats. But again, you've got to look carefully because those labels right now can read 0 grams, but in fact have up to half a gram per serving. And many of those cookies, cakes, crackers, and pies are going to have 4, 6, 8 servings in one package.
And as you eat more servings, that half a gram adds up, and the next thing you know, you've consumed quite a bit of trans fats.
That's right. And there are some health practitioners that claim that up to 20,000 heart attacks a year and 7,000 deaths a year could be prevented by decreasing our trans fat intake or completely removing trans fats from the food chain entirely.
The next largest segment of this pie graph shows at 21% animal products. So how do animal products have trans fats in them if they are typically chemically altered by humans?
Because every fat that you are actually eating is a mixture of saturated and unsaturated fat with just a few exceptions. And so animals, while they do contain many saturated fats, they also contain unsaturated fats, and we call those polyunsaturated fats. And when they're cooked or chemically altered at very high temperature, trans fats are actually created from those unsaturated fats in the animal products. And so an example of that is Crisco, right? We think of Crisco as a shortening. However, it's a very high trans fat product when you look at how much is in the entire package rather than looking at it per serving.
Yeah, margarine is the third largest slice of this pie. And when I was growing up, margarine was supposed to be the healthy alternative to eating butter, but that's really just not the case.
That's right. We really need to look to those oils that remain liquid at room temperature as our best options. So your olive oils, your avocado oils, rice bran oil, rather than looking at the ones that are solid or remain solid at room temperature.
Or like in the case of my kitchen right now, I have a big thing of coconut oil, which is, not only is it solid at room temperature, it's almost hard.
That's right. Exactly.
But you were saying that coconut oil has a different fat chain in it that sort of negates the fact that it's hard at room temperature.
It does. Its primary fat is lauric acid, which is a saturated fat, which actually has been shown to create heart health rather than heart disease and damage to the heart itself and the arteries. And so when we look at populations that live in tropical areas where coconuts grow, we actually see lower rates of heart attack and deaths from many cardiovascular-related conditions than we have here in our country.
Jocelyn, in the little amount of time that we have left, is it possible for you to explain what it is exactly trans fats are doing when they get into our system, why they've gotten to the point where the FDA wants to ban them?
What's happening is they're actually increasing injury to the arteries, and in increasing injury to the arteries, essentially it's like potholes in a freeway, and so blood cannot travel safely and smoothly from one organ or one vessel to another when the trans fats are inside of those arteries. And so the damage that's being created is what's increasing risk for heart attack and what's increasing risk for cardiovascular-related deaths.
So just like your analogy of the potholes in the freeway, a car goes along and hits a pothole really terribly, spins out of control. It then backs up traffic, and then there's a lot of cars that build up behind that. That's what's happening in the arteries.
That's correct.
Uh-huh.
That's correct. And we're also seeing impacts on fertility for those that have high amounts of trans fat. So it's not just the heart and the blood vessels that are suffering. There are other bodily systems that are also being affected.
Great information, Jocelyn. I see why you win Best of Santa Cruz year after year for all of your tips and such, because it's information that what we put into our bodies makes us who we are. And
that's right.
I mean, I don't have to tell you, you're a registered dietitian. Now, you've probably seen these things change over time, as I have. We just keep learning things. So 2 or 3 years down the road, what we're talking about now will probably stay true, but there will be some additional information added on to that.
Absolutely. The world of nutrition is forever changing, and it's my job to keep up with it, so I'll keep you informed as much as I can.
Right. That's why we need someone like you on our team, to keep the information flowing so that we stay as healthy as we possibly can. Jocelyn Dubin, she's a registered dietitian and nutritionist, co-owner of the wellness center Nourish in Santa Cruz. It is NourishSantaCruz.com for more information. Is that something you co-own with your husband? Is that what I read?
That's correct. My business partner is my husband, and I did choose that on purpose.
I love it. I think it's fantastic. Well, keep up the great work. We need to have you back on a regular basis. NourishSantaCruz.com. Jocelyn Dubin, thanks for joining us today on the show.
Thank you, Randall. Bye-bye.
All right, stick around, everyone. When we come back, we'll talk about exploring California with our Explore California segment. You're listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network. I'm your host, Randall White. Back in just a moment.